Welcome back to another head-to-head. This time it's on the Washington Justice. And why are we doing the Washington Justice? Because we said we would do one on every team. But I think I think though the story here with the Justice is look, they've made a bunch of additions now mid-season, right? They've got Janu, they've got Stitch. Did they get Somansu? Well, there
No,
was a rumor, I think, that potentially he was going to go there.
I
But
they've only got Stitch and Janu so far.
they've let go of the GM. They let go of like Banny, the assistant coach,
Yep.
GM Annalyn. They've now let go of their actual coach,
Yep.
John Galt. Uh, do you believe this is savable? And if you say yes, I will punch you.
Okay, Matt. You know, when you came up with, this idea of one topic per team, I knew that at some point we'd have to stretch things a little bit. And
The topic for the Justice should have been, should we talk about the Justice?
But I am going to today present the argument that the Washington Justice are savable.
Oh, you are such a fuck.
And though I don't particularly believe in it with my whole heart, I
How
am
much of your heart?
a sliver of my heart,
Like a vein, like one little vein in your heart believes.
I am going to present the argument for it. So, this is what would have to happen in order for the Justice to be saved, Because there is a theoretical universe in which the Justice turn their season around. They just have to do some wild shit. And there is a theoretical universe in which they come to being a good team next year and, save the franchise. That could still happen. That's not that far out of the question. So, yeah, I feel like we should start with you, though, to get a dose of realism.
Yeah, I mean, this team blows. It's just, I came into the season with good expectations for them. I was really excited about what they did at the end of last season. I thought that Corey was going to be like a breakout player like all year this year. I liked what they did in the offseason. I mean, I'm not the highest on Roar. I never thought he was really that good at the Gladiators, but it was an upgrade over Janice, right?
Yeah.
Especially because you couldn't get Lulshishin in time. So I thought Roar was a good piece. Aim God has fit in reasonably well. They made some other signings like Tuba and whatnot. I kind of like this team going into the year. And then it all fell apart.
It did.
I mean, Stratus gone, Corey gone. Now Ellie Vote's gone. The GM, the assistant coach, the coach. It's a lot to deal with. And then I also think when you look at some of the teams in the league and how they've gone young and been successful, and I say young, I mean the league is 3 years old, but I'm saying they've gone for the newer players, right? Players who have just come out through contenders, who play like numerous different things. I feel like this team's like the old guard of players. Like Arc is there and Aim God, and it's players that have had success in the Overwatch League before, but I feel like their time in the league is almost past with how many new upcoming players there are. So I think the only thing you can make an argument for is that you're banking on some of these players returning to like former glory in a system that may benefit them more, but we haven't seen it in a while, man.
Yeah. I think it bears reminding just how much of a fucking tragedy the Washington Justice has been. Since their inception, they've been dog shit. Their very first games.
H4 last year.
Yeah, that's the only part at which they were any good whatsoever. Apart from that, they have just been arguably the worst.
I thoroughly enjoyed their
homestand. Yeah, their homestand was great. Both of their homestands
are great.
And they actually performed fairly well at their homestands. They just lost all of their games. Pretty close games, though.
It's kind of sad. It's not as much organizationally. It's just bad teams.
Yeah, and I think they just failed with their roster building. They had a star player in Corey, genuinely a star player. And then they failed to make improvements. They got sucked into that classic trap, which is, but we did well in stage 4.
I would have done anything to make Corey stay. I would have been like, yo, we'll give you extra money. You want half the roster gone? We'll go fucking sign your cousin down the block. If that's who you want to play with, I don't fucking care. I would have done anything to keep Corey and even
we'll sign your Valorant buddies and they can come play Overwatch.
Sign them. Put 10 Widowmaker players on the bench. Who the fuck cares? Just anything to keep that guy there. I just feel like him and Stratus were so Like, they are the Justice, right? Like, even
Yeah.
when I think of the Justice now, I don't think of any of the players they have. I think of Corey and Stratus. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really think. I mean, I'm not a Justice fan, like, per se. I mean, we're not really like fans of like a lot of teams in the league, just because I mean we work on the league. But like, I imagine as a Justice fan, you're just like, who the hell is like our star player now? Like, do you think Stitch is gonna be like?
I mean, Stitch and Janu are now the star players, right?
They are.
Like
They're
that's
like their marquee guys.
yeah, but even Stitch. No, I mean, I was gonna say that even Stitch and
Thank
Janu weren't
God.
really the big names on the Titans
Johnny
on
was.
Runaway.
Johnny
but,
was like MVP level
yeah, and
candidate.
Stitch, like historically, has been kind of him and Haxal were the people at the front of Runaway, so they're like Stitch is one of the most popular players. He just hasn't been at that same kind of playing level.
Stitch and Hacksaw has a much different feel to it than Stitch and Tuba.
Yes, it does. It definitely does. So what on earth is my argument here that the Justice could turn it around? Well, I think that Stitch and Janu signing long-term contracts and coming to play without 200 ping is a big first step. And it's clear from the moves that Pre is making. Pre is Aaron Heckman. He's the general manager, the new one, that has been brought on to revitalize the team. He tweeted, actually, saying that they were retooling the team for 2021. So that I mean, indicates that he believes you, Matt. He believes that the Washington Justice are not savable this year.
I already think he's a smart guy.
But I think that they can still make changes this year because the signing window has been kind of pushed back. They can still make changes this year that give them a good base to work from and a good move forwards into next year. And I think that really would, if you're looking solid for the offseason, then you've done a long way. You've gone a long way to making this roster saved. You've almost saved their hopes.
Period. Okay, who is good enough? Like, who do we work well with? Like, who do we want to keep? Right now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are they at the 7? There's 7 players, right?
Yeah, they've got 7 players. They've got Ark and Aim God.
Because they still have Lulcish on the roster. But
but Lulcish. I mean, Lulcish has literally never played for them. And so there's no way.
So in theory, they just have a 6-player team.
Yes, and it's full Korean. That's the point as well, right? They are seemingly making. I mean, John Gold has retired. As far as I'm aware, he didn't speak Korean. Bani and Annalyn, neither of them spoke Korean. So it seems like they're constructing a full Korean roster, which allows them to pull from a talent pool in Korea that they know is good, and they don't have to worry about blending in other players. And they're not appealing anymore to an American kind of audience. They're just like desperately trying to get a roster that is going to succeed.
I mean, is this going to be... I feel like the Justice are going to go the way of the Mayhem. That, like, they'll have this roster this season. Maybe they'll add some players towards the end of the season. And then, like, just kind of almost blow it up in a way. Where, like, you'll bring in a bunch of players who are, like, starting caliber. I'm saying the Mayhem in the past.
Oh, right. Because I was going to say the Mayhem are actually good now.
The Mayhem are actually good now, yeah.
I think that they'll be like the Mayhem now. Except, no, you know what? I think the Mayhem's maybe the wrong...
Is there a talent pool now to make another phenomenal team?
There is. And that's what I wanted to kind of steer this towards, is the idea that if you wanted to create... if you had deep pockets, like we know that Washington, D.C. has had in the past, then you could make a really good Korean roster right now. I mean, there's a bunch of players in the league that aren't currently being played. If you have deep pockets, you can buy people from other teams as well. And there's players in tier 2 in contenders who have already shown that they're really good. And
you can make a winning team of players on the bench of teams super easily.
You absolutely could. And so that's why I think that in theory, if the Washington Justice really wanted to splash the cash, they actually could save their season. Now, do I think they're really just going to go out and buy like 6 players and buy out contracts from other teams? Yeah, you probably wait until the off season when their player values decrease a little bit and people actually want to get rid of people. But in theory, they could. And I actually want to point out, like, I'm not saying that there's any truth to these leaks, but for the sake of my argument, Matt, there were a bunch of
Reddit.
Yeah, not even Reddit, Matt. It's worse than that. It's the DC Insider Gallery. It's like the Korean leaking gallery from the Seoul Dynasty. And sometimes these leaks have ended up being true in the past. Sometimes they've ended up being complete horse shit. But some of these were leaks recently. Now, they had peppered in real things that were happening as well. This is the classic one. This is how they get you,
that's how you would leak stuff, right? Yeah, you put in a bunch of stuff that's shit, that then people who know the stuff are like, oh, this is shit. But then you put in a few things that people are like, oh, wow, that's true.
So they leaked stuff like, oh, Elevote's leaving, John Galt's leaving. And it's like, oh, okay, so maybe these other things are true. Anyway,
but I mean,
I'm not making...
For fuck's sake, I mean... When you saw them sign
Janu, yeah, you could make an educated guess.
Fucking leave Elevote there, just like chilling on the side, like, hey, what's up, guy?
So I'm not saying by any means that these are true. These could be absolute bollocks, but I think it's a cool thought experiment because it kind of proves the point of like there is that talent out there to be able to make a team that would be able to at least go 500 for the rest of the year.
Right.
So these leaks said that Mag and QOQ were going to be signed. Now, I don't know why, really, you would sign QOQ because you already have Janu on the team, and I think that Janu is better than QOQ, but, you know, maybe QOQ plays some other characters that Janu doesn't. You know, maybe the Zarya or something, but QOQ's mainly been a diva player in the past. Anyway, Mag is a huge pickup for the Washington Justice if he actually went over there. He's somebody that was too young to play this year up until... like right about now, actually, I think. I think his birthday was something like, in fact, I want to look this up, but I think his birthday was like the 18th of June or something. So he basically, it was the 12th of June. So he's like 1 day away from being totally ineligible for the league entirely, but he could only play for like the latter half of the year, or the latter quarter of the year. But that's kind of the exact time period that the Justice need him. So it would make sense for them to pick him up because his birthday's in 3 days. And he's, in my opinion, definitely a better player than Raw. Maybe outside of the Winston, like Raw might have a slight edge on the Winston.
Look, I don't want to do the GM's job for him, but look, you bring in Mac, you have Janu, right?
Yep.
That's your tank line. Call up the Shock. Hey, you really need striker. Are you gonna use him? Or call the Atlanta Reign and be like, hey, like, what's Urster doing? Like, does he want to play a bit? We got a spot he can play.
Huge.
Like you sign one of those guys and then you fill in another flex DPS spot as another roster slot, and then I look at like potentially replacing the support line, and you're at like a 500 team.
Now, it gets even crazier than that, though, because although Urster would be like an amazing pickup, and we keep throwing his name around, Innovation is a guy that has been mentioned in connection with the Justice, who's he's a South Korean DPS player who plays for a Chinese team at the moment, but also mentioned with connection to the Justice, and here's where it gets fucking mental, is Nene and Libero.
I knew you were going to say that. I think I read this shit.
Yeah. Now, I don't understand why on earth they would trade Nene to the Justice when Nene, I think, is a focal part of the NYXL moving forward. So and he's just moved to Korea. Like, keep the guy in America.
I actually could have thought about that being a realistic possibility, because if you remember, Nene was not in Korea. He was in New York.
For dental work.
So if he was not able to go back for whatever reason and still wanted to play, going to an East Coast team would make sense.
Definitely. But he's in Korea right now, isn't he?
Makes sense. Yeah, he is. So that's I don't think that's true. Unless New York's playing some sick joke and sending him back for a picture and then fucking shipping him off to the Justice, going back the other way.
Get your air miles in during a pandemic.
Libero, I can see being moved potentially as a player on the move. Like, if you have Hacksaw and who are you now? Like, do you need Libero as much?
I think that would be a mistake, personally. Like, don't you think that would be a mistake getting rid of Libero? Yeah, for New York, because even if you're planning...
I'd want to see what happens with Hacksaw and who are you first.
Exactly, and who are you hasn't really been that successful. They've had their most success when playing with Libero, and he's so flexible. So,
but you look at it from the other side, is if if New York comes out the rest of the season and plays like Nene, Hacksaw, and Who Are You, like how much value does Libero hold in the offseason now where they're going to be like, hey, come get this guy, and they're going to try and be like, hey, here's a buyout, and the other teams are going to be like, well, no, you don't play him anyway, and we know you need to get rid of him, and then they're going to be like, shit.
Yeah, and even if he does have a fat buyout, people like Justice would be willing to pay that, I think, for Libero, because the guy's got proven elite tier talent on the flex DPS. Yeah. Like, he's a huge upgrade over anyone they've ever had at that position. So if the Washington Justice are willing to make those kind of moves, then you've got players in the league available. Then also, and this one, in my opinion, makes the most sense out of everything, Myeonbong.
Yeah, right? That makes sense.
Because the Boston Uprising are always a team.
Give me some fucking weird shit of Aim God going back to Boston. Sign me up for that.
I mean, that I don't think would be included in the terms
I know
of the
you
agreement.
I know you watch this show. That you most likely don't. But please make that happen.
Yeah, Aim God back to Boston, I don't think is going to happen. But I don't think that Aim God has been that great this year. And I don't think that he's ever really lived up to the little shred of hype that he had when he was doing really well on the Boston Uprising statistically. And Ark, I don't think, has been up to it either. So I think that a support line upgrade is required for this team to save them as a franchise.
There's
and
a lot of interesting options they could have done with support.
Yeah, and Myeonbong is certainly one of them, right? Like, Myeonbong has been fantastic recently for the Boston Uprising. He was okay at the beginning of the year when the team was just getting pummeled, but ever since the Boston Uprising has been able to go kind of 50-50 with the better teams, his Ana and his Bionades have looked really good. So I believe in that. And at that point, you've got a good team. The Justice would then have a good team.
The Justice could... Okay, so if you were to get Mag, right?
Yeah.
Mag, Janu, let's say you were able to get Libero and Stitch. And then one of a group of flex supports. One of the names that I thought of is, like, could they get Kariv from Toronto? Like, although he's kind of like their whole thing. Like, if Toronto is struggling, maybe they're willing to kind of give up Kariv. Or I even think Repel would be an
that would be an interesting
choice.
one, actually.
Like, get Repel from Houston, and then
they seem happy playing with Raucus anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and then give them and then try and get a main support, and you have that's like a mid-table NA team next year.
Definitely,
if you were to have that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge improvement over anything that the Washington Justice have ever fielded before.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
And their schedule sucks moving forwards. They've already played their easy games. They're probably going to get rolled for the rest of the season. But if they have this kind of roster, they're going to at least have hope for 2021. And this is a team that previously, I mean, I don't think they ever really had that much hope. The fans of the Justice have never had it.
I don't know why I just even thought of it. I was like, they should get Mag and they should get Daco, dude.
Daco. Wow. Yeah.
That's a shout.
They've already got Janu and rumored for QOQ. You don't really need a
could be
third.
Drinking somewhere. I mean, who the hell knows where Daco is? Yeah. I love that guy, though. He's a character. So it is kind of... this year, I think we can both agree it's kind of shot.
If they got that roster immediately...
It would be doable.
They still have a hope. But it's a very small amount of hope. I mean, they're 3-10, so they'd have to get that roster straight away and start winning. I think this year's probably shot.
This was some kind of weird audition for us to be GMs.
Yeah, GMs with lots of money, though. That's also the key for this, right? Is that the Justice would need to spend in order to...
We don't sign on unless there's tons of money. So if there's any teams in the comments...
Yeah, if you want us to
let us know.
If you want us to turn your organization around, you just have to unzip the purse.
Yeah, all we need is a few webcams, maybe a show sponsor, and we can do it.
Yep. True.
Well, that's it. Discussing the Justice. What do you guys think the Justice needs to do their roster to turn it around for this season or next season? Do you still believe in the Justice here in 2020? Let us know. We'll see you with another head-to-head soon.